everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's virtual tour. I'm Christina, I'm here with Cassidy today, and we are right outside the Children's Garden. So we're going to walk through the Children's Garden today because it is reopening to the public tomorrow on Tuesday. And if you can stick around till the end of the tour, we also have a really beautiful peak bloom going on in the Japanese garden right now that we're going to take you over to see at the end. So stick around and stay tuned in. But in the meantime, we're going to start here in the Children's Garden because, as I said, it's opening tomorrow to the public. And really exciting is that it will be free to everyone, members and public, through June 27th. So if you haven't been here before, it's a great time to come check it out. So we wanted to give you a preview of that today. So I'll go ahead and turn this camera around and we'll walk you on through. So if you've never been here before, the Children's Garden is a really impressively large area with a lot to explore. You can see there's a lot of bridges and platforms and slides just here at the entrance. But there's also a lot of plantings for adults to enjoy too, so we're going to point some of those out along our way.
And here's one of those plants right off the bat that's kind of neat. These are pawpaw. It's a Missouri native fruit tree. It's edible fruit. These are little babies. They'll get ripe in the fall in September and can get close to the size of a russet potato sometimes. And they have this tropical tasting custard-like fruit inside. And so there's a nice little grove of the pawpaw here in the Children's Garden, and you can see the little baby fruit are on their way to becoming a delicious meal for raccoons, who are the prime beneficiaries of those fruit here in the Children's Garden. They tend to beat us to them every year.
And you can see there's a lot of trees here and shade structures, a lot of seating, so this is a really nice place to come cool off and relax and let the kids run around while you sit down and catch your breath, especially in these hotter summer months. And there's a lot for them to do while they're here. So we're entering the Nature Explorer classroom right now, which is an area that's meant for kids to play in a way that gets them excited about nature and being outside. You can see these trees that have been repurposed as climbing areas. Lots of nice plantings in here as well. Some activities such as, you can see these structures over here.
Yeah, this is a nice little music area. And I think what Christina was headed towards are these little critter motels. And they're hanging out here in this area that is for making music. Should you be so inclined. And you can see we've added things like hand sanitizer if you feel like your hands need a wash after touching some of these things, but they're all outdoors. And one of the things that's going to be a little bit different with the Children's Garden is it will be open in sessions and then closed in between those sessions so that we can clean off some of these high touch areas just to make sure that we're keeping things nice and sanitized for everybody.
So when you are planning your visit, what you'll do is come to the garden as normal. You can reserve your tickets for the garden ahead of time online at mobot.org/visit. But to get your tickets to the Children's Garden, those are available on site day of only. So those will not be reserved in advance. You'll just go ahead and get those once you're already here.
This is kind of a neat thing here. This is a sedge, and it's got that cool fruiting structure on the top. I'm not entirely sure what kind of sedge, but I'm sure a horticulturist or a botanist could set me straight pretty quickly here. They have these cool fruits on the top. Sedges are a little bit different than grass. And the thing that someone told me once for recognizing a sedge over a grass is that sedges have edges. So their stems are a little bit more square.
And in addition to a lot of these native plantings, you'll see a lot of really nice, colorful annual displays throughout the children's garden, like what you're seeing in these barrels here. And speaking of some of those native plantings, we have butterfly weed over here. Really nice orange color.
Yeah, and this is a type of milkweed, so related to the common milkweed and swamp milkweed and all that same genus of plants that's really good food for monarch butterflies. Or I should say the monarch butterfly caterpillars.
We have a garden area with some raised beds here.
Yeah, I can see some strawberries in here and some sort of solanum. I'm not sure. It'd be eggplant or tomato, potato, peppers, all in the same botanical family. I'm not entirely sure what those are, but these are tomatoes for sure.
So this is a fun area for kids to kind of see where some of their food comes from that they might be familiar with. Some of this is, this looks like some kind of Swiss chard or other edible green. So it can be a really fun place for them to sort of make that connection.
There's another little musical area here for kids to play with. I know you all tuned in to watch me play music on these. Christina's the drummer. I should be letting her do this. But just some more examples of things in bloom here. I think this is a native honeysuckle vine. And as you might be able to tell by the shape of the flower, this is a hummingbird favorite. So they get their long beaks in there and get some nectar. So really nice vining plant that's native.
so many little areas like this to explore. Right now we're underneath one of the structures we were just walking past. And I think we're gonna take you guys down this slide.
Yeah, so most of the features here are open, even if there are some additional things like extra cleanings that we do in between these sessions, but slides are open, so by all means come and take a slide.
All right, here we go. Now we made our way back to this lower level. Some coneflower, starting to see some of that in bloom now that we're getting into summer. And speaking of some of those changes you'll see in certain areas, there are some one-way areas, but other than that, it's all the same activities from the children's garden that you remember.
Yeah, including the splash pad. So talking about places to cool down, there's this nice dark cool cave, or if you're more inclined, the splash pad will be open and ready for your kids to cool off, and you to cool off inadvertently when you have to go rush in and grab your kid and tell them it's time to leave. At least that's what happens to me.
A lot of really cool water features in the children's garden, like this waterfall here. This area that's sort of like a swamp or a wetland type area. You can see some cypress knees down in here. Got the stream. Just a lot of spots to explore and enjoy.
And a lot of the shade here in the children's garden is actually coming from these osage orange trees here. And we will walk a little closer to a trunk of one coming up. But there's a row of them that cuts through the children's garden, and these were actually trees that were planted in the 1800s that were lining a driveway from an old entrance to the garden out to Tower Grove House. And this line of trees, these osage orange trees, has remained for all these years. And so they're a little less conspicuous as a driveway lining now because of the way the garden has changed over that time. But something that's definitely not conspicuous about them are those big green fruits that they drop in the fall. And so if you've noticed at all the netting that's above us here, that netting is here specifically because of these trees and those big fruits, to make sure that those softball size fruits don't land anywhere they're not supposed to. So it's a nice safety measure that allows us to keep everybody safe below the trees, but also allows us to keep these historic trees here in this place, in a place that they've been for at least 140 years, if not more. So kind of a neat bit of history held in these plants here in the children's garden. And with the exception of one other osage orange from that original driveway planting, all of those trees are here in the children's garden There's only one that's still remains that's outside of it. So a neat place to come and get that piece of history while also allowing your kids to blow off some steam, run around. Here's another look at that area, this sort of swamp area Christina was pointing out, and you can see all those bald cypress knees lined up there along that far shore.
Now we'll take you on this fun, bouncy rope bridge too. And we don't want to miss this bloom. These prickly pears are blooming right now. Oh, there's a bee visiting right now. This is always a cool bloom when these flower. Really nice, bright yellow blooms.
And you can see, we'll show the map here real fast just because we did a quick loop around here, but the Children's Garden is a very extensive area. So we visited here in the Nature Explore classroom. We walked a little bit through the vegetable garden and down underneath here in the cave. But there's quite a bit to explore, especially if you are small enough to fit in all the little nooks and crannies that are here at the Children's Garden.
As we're leaving, you'll see some more of those really nice, colorful annual displays. Here, approaching the entrance to the Children's Garden, some more of those native plantings along the way.
Yeah, this is Virginia Sweetspire here. I think this is just kind of a neat, showy plant. And it has really pretty fall color too. It gets nice bright red leaves. Just one of the few that's plants that's blooming right now in this Children's Garden entry garden. There's a lot of things that are starting to come up. There's some blazing star that is getting these really tall stalks that you can see. There's a little bit more of the butterfly weed and some things like rattlesnake master that are starting to come up, but it'll be quite a while before these are in bloom. Definitely a high summer kind of bloomer. So as Christina mentioned at the top of the tour, one of our sort of well-known displays is in peak this week, the water irises along the zigzag bridge in the Japanese garden. So Christina, if you want to hop on, and we'll make our way there to show that display, which is definitely worth coming out and taking a look at this week. And as we make our way out there, you'll notice things like this sculpture here called Emerging Peace. It's part of Origami in the Garden, which is going on now throughout the summer and into the fall at the Missouri Botanical Garden by the artists Kevin and Jennifer Box and some other contributors. And so there's large sculptures like that placed throughout the garden. included with regular admission, and we also have evening hours for origami after hours, where you can come and see these maybe after you get off work. Here's another one here as we pass by the Kemper Center for Home Gardening, and you can see some really nice plants coming up in this circle here. If I recall, these plants can be used to make paper, which was part of the design for that bed this year, was incorporating those paper making plants as part of the origami exhibit that's with us this year. And so we're coming past, there's some really nice pink hydrangeas here on the other side here as we are driving again past the home gardening center, making our way to the Japanese garden. That's a Stilby, the sort of the taller spikes. And a lot to see, and we encourage you to, of course, come and take it a little bit slower than we are in the cart as we make our way to the zigzag bridge to show off those water irises that are in peak bloom. There's another piece of origami here, these bison in the tall grass.
And we've been in the Japanese garden a few times throughout the season this year, but you can see now everything is fully leafed out, really green and beautiful. Definitely looking like summertime here in the Japanese garden.
Turned out to be a really nice day, Christina. It was a little rainy this morning. Now you're getting these pockets of sun and blue sky with all these big puffy clouds, and I think that's my understanding of what we're kind of expecting the rest of the week. And something that's worth noting is sometimes when you look at those forecasts and you see a little storm cloud, for each day of the week going forward, you may think, oh, it's going to be so rainy, and that's not necessarily the case. That may just be that there's a chance of rain at some point during the day, and as is the case with today, the rain came. It was here for maybe an hour or two, and it's moved out, and it's really cooled things down a bit, which is nice. And so definitely something to keep in mind when you're looking at the forecasts and trying to decide which day that you'd like to come and pay us a visit and see these things. This is that time of year when we get these passing spotty storms, and it could be raining where you live and not raining at all here at the Missouri Botanical Garden. And definitely, after we dodge that rain, a great day for visiting. So I encourage people to think about the days they'd like to come and visit. Again, we're closed to the public on Mondays still, but open the rest of the week. And we do have some of those evening hours with origami after hours that'll be going on throughout the summer. So we're here at the far end of the Japanese Garden Lake. There's the Koi Bridge. I can't remember if I've mentioned this on previous tours, but we have opened back up the fish food feeders for the koi. So those had been closed for a while because they were a high touch thing with all the kids and adults alike wanting to feed the fish, but those are back open, and you can still buy fish food in the gift shop at our temporary visitor center up front as well. If you prefer to buy it there and bring it back here to feed the koi, they would be happy for that. And here's what we wanted to make sure we didn't do a tour this week without showing off these water irises here along the zigzag bridge in the Japanese garden. Definitely a peak week for this collection here.
You can see there's so many different varieties along this path here. And just all these layers from this vantage point we're at now. It's really nice to sort of walk through and see how that view changes, get a closer look at some of the individual irises.
And I mean, these are big flowers. You can see, I mean, they're the size of my hand here. And you can see for every one that's open, there are still some that haven't quite gotten there yet that are getting ready to. So, so it's not just what you see now is what you'll see this week. These beds will actually get a little bit more full as the week progresses.
And you may have been here around Mother's Day for our Goodman Iris Garden, which is where the majority of our iris collection is. And that is now past its peak, and this is kind of the last variety of iris that's going to be blooming this season. And they really make a great grand finale. These are all really, really nice varieties with so much detail and color.
On the way they're designed here with the bridge as well, and all the directional changes you make as you walk across, and these beds were specially designed to be built in the water to fit into each of those twists and turns that you make. And it is from the vantage point that we're showing you right now, you can see how the bridge itself weaves itself in and out of these different beds of irises here. It just makes for a really beautiful picture and just a nice experience.
So thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to come by this week and see these beautiful irises while they're at their peak. Stop by the Children's Garden while it's reopening this week to the public for anyone who's just now tuning in. So make sure to stop by there, and we'll see you next time. Bye.